What if I told you that the biggest threat to your organization isn't inflation? It isn't staffing shortages. It isn't artificial intelligence. It isn't your competitors. It could be one leader sitting in your organization today, a leader who looks successful on paper, but quietly drive away best employees every single year. Companies spend thousands of dollars recruiting great talents. Then they lose those same employees because of one manager. Today, I'm going to show you why keeping wrong leaders could be the most expensive decision your organization is making. Stay with me.
Welcome to Take Charge with Dr. Chichi.
Welcome to Take Charge with Dr. Chichi, where we help professionals, leaders, and organizations move from burnout to breakthrough through better leadership, healthier workplaces, and practical strategies that help people and organizations thrive. I am your host, Dr. Chichi. If this is your first time here, welcome. Please subscribe, like this episode, share it with someone who leads people. It might change the way they lead forever. So there are some leaders that will make you feel like you matter. Let me take you back to something I witnessed during my years in healthcare. I once walked around a leader who understood everything very simple. People want to know they matter. She knew her employees. She noticed when someone's struggling. She acknowledged good work. And when the department became extremely busy, guess what she did? She didn't simply sit back and tell everyone what to do. She became visible. She helped. And she's hands-on too. I remember watching how differently people responded to her. When the unit was difficult, people would show up. When she needed someone to help, people were willing to step forward. Was everything perfect? No. But people knew their leader respected them. And that taught me something I've never forgotten. Sometimes employees don't stay because the job is easy. They stay because the leadership makes a difficult job worth doing. This is the kind of leadership organizations cannot afford to lose. But unfortunately, I've also witnessed the opposite. So, what's the business takeaway here? Good leadership protects your investment in people. And this is where leadership becomes expensive. So, let's begin with a question. Why do good employees really leave? Most organizations believe employees leave because of money, workload, better opportunities. Sometimes that's true, but many leave because they no longer feel respected, they don't feel heard, trusted, appreciated, psychologically safe. People often say, I love my job. What they don't say publicly is, I couldn't work for that manager anymore. So think about your own career. Did you ever leave because of the work or because of the person leading you? So the hidden costs executives don't always see. So imagine losing one experienced employee or experienced nurse. Replacement costs include recruiting, interviewing, onboarding, orientation, training, overtime for remaining staff. Of course, you're going to pay them. Temporary staffing, lost productivity, decreased morale. So now imagine losing 5 or 10 or 20 or 30. That's not just a staffing issue, it's a business issue. So here's the scary part. Most organizations don't realize the problem until resignation begins. I also have another story, and that story um, is about people that didn't leave the profession, but they left the environment. So there was another environment I observed where the story was different. The employees were experienced, they worked hard, they cared about their jobs, and have innovative ideas on how to improve patient outcome. But gradually, something began to change. People stopped speaking up. They stopped volunteering ideas. Some became quiet in meetings. And eventually, good employees started leaving. So what was happening? They didn't suddenly stop loving healthcare or their job. They were very tired of feeling unheard, unappreciated, and afraid that speaking honestly could make them a target. And here's the part leaders sometimes miss. By the time this resignation letters start coming, the employees had already emotionally left months earlier. Their resignation was simply the final step. And every time an experienced employee walked through that door, the organization wasn't just losing another employee, it was losing knowledge, experience, relationship, productivity, and then it had to spend money recruiting and training someone else. Sometimes that looks like an employee retention problem, but it's actually a leadership problem. So CEOs and executives, this is why you cannot measure the health of your organization simply by counting how many people are still working for you. You have to find out how many of them have already mentally checked out. So what's the business takeaway? Poor leadership costs organization good people. And that is where leadership becomes expensive. There are five signs that your leader is hurting the organization. Number one, people keep transferring out of one department. Just notice the pattern. People leave the same leader, not the organization. Number two, employees stop speaking. Silence is dangerous. When people stop sharing ideas, they have already started disconnecting. Number three, innovation disappears. People do only enough to survive. Number four, high absenteeism. People begin calling in sick more often. Sometimes they aren't physically sick, they're emotionally exhausted. Number five, top performers leave first. So your strongest employees usually have the most options. They rarely wait until things improve. So what's the reflection here? Which of these signs have you seen in your workplace? Is a reflection. Think about it. Which of these signs have you seen in your workplace? So another part that we're going to talk about is why organizations keep poor leaders. It's really difficult to talk about, but sometimes organizations keep leaders because they've been here for years. They're technically brilliant. They produce good numbers. They're friends with senior leadership. They've never been challenged. So technical excellence doesn't automatically create leadership excellence. A great clinician isn't always a great manager. A top salesperson isn't automatically a great leader. Leadership requires different skills. And there's some leaders that do not have skills. So what exceptional leaders do differently? Exceptional leaders create workplace where people want to stay. They listen, they communicate clearly, they recognize effort, they build trust, they coach instead of criticize, they create psychological safety, admit mistakes, and remain accountable. People remember how leaders made them feel long after they've forgotten the workload. Employees hardly forget. Also understand leadership doesn't need perfection. Leadership doesn't need perfection at all because we're all human. Nobody is perfect. I also want to be fair to leaders because leadership is difficult. And I have seen another side of this. I watch a leader receive difficult feedback about how their leadership style was affecting the team. Initially, the feedback wasn't easy to hear. Most of us don't enjoy hearing that something we're doing is hurting the people around us. But instead of becoming defensive, this leader eventually began listening. The leader started asking more questions, started communicating differently, and started recognizing employees. And most importantly, employees began feeling safer speaking out. The change wasn't instantaneous. Trust had to be rebuilt. But gradually, the atmosphere changed. The atmosphere changed. And that experience taught me something important. A bad leadership moment doesn't have to become a bad leadership legacy. Leaders can change, organizations can change, cultures can change. But change begins when leaders are courageous enough to ask, what is it like to be led by me? It's a difficult question to ask, but ask your employees that question. What is it like to be led by me? So what's the business takeaway here? Leadership development can change the trajectory before good employees leave. This is where leadership becomes expensive. So there's a take charge leadership model that I have, and it is take charge. T for trust, A for accountability, K for kindness, E for engagement, C for communication, H for humility, A for appreciation, R for respect, G for growth, E for empowerment. Let me break it down. For trust, T. Trust grows when leaders are consistent and keep their words. When they keep their words, that's when trust grows. Accountability. Leaders own their mistakes before pointing out someone else's mistake. You can't be messing up and pointing out someone else's mistake. Yes, you're the boss. Do you want to have trust? Do you want to have a good culture? Do you want to have progressive employees? Be accountable too. Care for kindness. Kindness is not weakness. It builds loyalty and respect. Engagement. Stay connected to your people. Ask questions. Listen actively. C for communication. Clear, honest communication prevents confusion and builds confidence. H for humility. The strongest leaders continue learning and welcome feedbacks. That's how you grow. Let people give you feedback and you watch yourself grow. Be humble. A for appreciation. People thrive when their contributions are noticed and valued. R for respect. Respect should never depend on someone's title or position. And then G for growth. Develop people so they become stronger than they were yesterday. Develop people so they become stronger than they were yesterday. Not just your friend in your team. Don't just develop the friends in your team and make other people feel like they're worthless. Develop your people so they become stronger than they were yesterday. And E is for empowerment. Create opportunities for those to lead, solve problems, and succeed. So, what's the executive questions here? If I were speaking directly to every CEO, administrator, executive today, I will ask, why are people leaving? Why are people leaving? Which department lose the most employees? What pattern do you see? Are exit interviews revealing the same concerns? What leadership development have you invested in this year? If your best employee resigned today or tomorrow, do you know why? So these are not just HR questions, they are leadership questions too. For the executive challenge for this week, ask every member of your team one simple question. What is one thing I could do differently that will help you succeed? When they answer, don't interrupt. Don't defend yourself. Don't explain. Just listen. Listen. One honest conversation may prevent one resignation, and one retained employee may save your organization thousands of dollars. Also, if you're a CEO, HR executive, healthcare administrator, manager, or business owner, here's my challenge for you this week. Don't ask your employees, are you happy here? Just ask them, what is one thing about leadership that makes it harder for you to do your best work? What is one thing about leadership that makes it harder for you to do your best work? And then don't defend, don't explain, don't retaliate, just listen. Because the answer to that question may save you from losing your next great employee. So, what's the financial reflection here? Leadership has a financial return. Organizations with healthy leadership often experience lower turnover costs, better employee engagement, stronger productivity, higher patient or customer satisfaction, reduced overtime, better organizational reputation, and greater profitability. So every leadership decision has a financial impact. So investing in leadership development is not an expense, it's an investment in the future of your organization. So if you're a CEO, HR executive, healthcare administrator, business owner, or organizational leader who wants to reduce burnout, strengthen leadership, and improve employee retention, I'll be honored to partner with your team through keynote speaking, leadership training, and customized employee retention workshop. You can connect with me through the links in the description below to learn how we can work together. So remember this, people may join an organization because of its reputation, but they stay because of the leaders they experience every day. Leadership is not about having authority. Leadership is about creating an environment where people can thrive. Until next time, this is Chichi reminding you to take charge of your leadership, your workplace, and your future. And we'll see you on the next episode. Continue to take charge. Bye-bye.
Take Charge with Dr. Chichi is a brand of Sparkling Star Development Strategies LLC. The information provided is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial, legal, or medical advice. Financial services are offered independently by Dr. Chichi in accordance with applicable licensing and regulatory standards. Thank you for watching.